In terms of client care and such, um, you and I were talking earlier about imposter syndrome,
Hmm.
especially since you and I came into the our industries and also the genres fairly new and fresh-faced. How
Absolutely.
did you, what sort of leaps of faith did you find you had to take? How did you and still do, fight past imposter syndrome? And I think for me,
Hmm.
a couple of things were, first of all, the belief that um, the fear that my first instinct was the worst instinct.
Hmm.
Like, okay, if this is the first thing I thought of, then clearly that needs to be thrown in the scrapyard, and I need to rethink this because that's what a true professional does. What I've learned since then is actually my first instinct is probably the best instinct.
Absolutely. I was going to say my gut feel. I have doubted it several times over the years, always to my detriment. It
Uh-huh.
was always the right thing to do in the first place. So I tend to go with that. 9 times out of 10, I still I still sometimes backtrack and like stumble and stutter on myself. I'm like, should I do this? Should I not? But for the most part, yeah, it's a matter. It's that leap of faith of going with the gut feel because I think to counter that imposter syndrome, I've got to realize that I am successful at what I do, and so that and people are coming to me for that reason. So there must be something there. As a funny aside, I still have trouble giving my business card to potential clients that I see on the street or in the gym, or because I'm always like, am I this like creepy guy giving this guy a card to take a picture? It's weird, and I shouldn't feel that way. I don't. I still find myself feeling kind of doubtful as to my skills, but I should just be like, hey, here's my card. You want to shoot? You hit me up. Here's my website. Let's go for it, or not. But I still doubt myself, and I still shrink away at that. It's that imposter syndrome, the little voice in the back of my mind that's like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. It's just you're not, you don't belong here. But I'm trying to quiet that as much as I can, especially nowadays.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and what I find is um, with more and more projects, there's simply this element of, uh, and again, this is something that I tell my students when they're getting started in audiobook narration,
Mhm.
is there is no substitute for just having completed a project. So, grab projects, complete them, grab projects, complete them, grab projects, complete them, because every, the physical muscles of the mouth and the breath, the intellectual muscles of how to prepare a book,
Mhm.
and the spiritual muscles of this is where I belong, this is what I do.
Absolutely.
And then what it boils down to is simply the action of service, which is what I admire so much about a statement of purpose on your website.
Mm.
It's all about, am I good? Am I talented? Am I exciting? And all that sort of thing. So, okay, yes, 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 and all that stuff is great seasoning for self-esteem and for motivation.
Mhm.
But ultimately, am I serving the client, and am I
Right.
serving their audience?
Absolutely.
And that was something that
Absolutely.
was so beautiful when I started to get into romance, which is um, romance is such a funny thing in terms of it's the most mainstream, and at the same time it's still sort of on the margins,
Right.
in a lot of ways. Like you won't see a romance image on the cover of Time magazine, or necessarily in movie poster for Rotten Tomatoes or something like that, right?
Right.
But romance outsells every other genre by about 12. And with the audiobook boom as well, it's just huge.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
this anyway, what I'm getting at with all that is that with stuff like Time Magazine or Rotten Tomatoes, or when I have stars in my eyes, and what the media is bombarding me with is this idea of cool, untouchable, cool, untouchable, cool, untouchable. Whereas with romance, it's a big bear hug of storytelling, I find.
I like
Um,
that analogy. Yeah.
and the clients who are writing the romance and the readers of romance are these people again who are in the hospital bed and they just want to hear a story and they want to love the story, and they're not sitting there with like a pen to their lips critiquing, giving points and giving checklists and doing
Right.
academic analysis of this stuff. They're story lovers, and so the idea of, oh, okay, you would like me to tell the story? Well, I can tell a story, and I love to tell stories. Okay, I will I will serve you. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Definitely.